We now go live to the Non-Oil Export Summit, where the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, will be speaking on setting the roadmap towards achieving RT200 and non-oil export for development. The forum will focus on the current situation in the economy, the commitment to addressing the challenges, as well as driving the development and improvement of the non-oil sector.
While we are still standing, we take the second stanza as our national prayer. O God of creation, direct our noble course, guide our leaders right. Help our use the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. And we all say, Amen. Please, let's be seated. Your Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Let me welcome here the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, CON. I'd like to welcome here the hard-working, dynamic team of Deputy Governors, first starting with the Deputy Governor in charge of Financial System Stability, Mrs. Aisha N. Ahmad. I welcome you. Thank you very much. I noticed that it's only women that clapped. Let me welcome the Deputy Governor in charge of Corporate Services, Mr. Edward L. Adamu. The Deputy Governor in charge of Operations, Mr. Folashodun Adebisi Shonubi. And the Deputy Governor in charge of Economic Policy, Dr. Kingsley Obiora. I'd like to welcome here Mr. Herbert Wigwe, the Group Managing Director, CEO, Access Group, and also the Chairman of the Bankers Committee. Let's welcome him. Let me welcome the Managing Director of Nexim Bank, Mr. Abba Bello, the other MDs of banks that are here, Kafilat Araoye, Lotus Bank, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Mr. Ebenezer Onyago, Group Managing Director of Zenith Bank, is here with us. Oluwa Tomi Shomen from Unity Bank, we're welcome. Nneka Onyalikpe, Fidelity Bank, is also here. Segun Agbaje GT Co. is also here. I welcome you. And let me welcome the Managing Director of Nigerian Pulse Authority, Muhammad Bello Koko, all of you. I'd like to welcome the directors of Central Bank of Nigeria that are here. And let me welcome all the stakeholders in the non-oil sector. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure and I hope and confidence that Nigeria will grow that I welcome all of you to the RT200 Non-Oil Export Summit. It is heartwarming that the economy has continued to show positive growth following the country's exit from recession and remains resilient in the face of threats posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is also interesting to note the consistent improvement in the contribution of the non-oil sector to GDP in relation to the oil sector. So no doubt the current administration has recorded remarkable progress in its effort to reduce over-dependence on oil whose future can no longer be assured amidst global move towards renewable energy. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the expansion in economic activities now largely driven by the non-oil sector, which is why the CBN and the Bankers Committee have to be commended for the initiative to raise $200 billion in foreign exchange repatriation from non-oil proceeds in the next 3 to 5 years, anchored on a 5-point agenda. That is why we are all gathered here: bankers, custom officials, Nigerian Ports Authority, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, clearing agents, cargo airlines, shipping lines, logistics companies, insurance companies, and other stakeholders in the non-oil sector, so that we can look at the problems, look at the complaints, look at the challenges as we aim for the 200 billion target. So, Your Excellencies, I welcome all of you. But to formally welcome us, let me welcome a man that is both relevant here in Nigeria and internationally. Alternate Executive Director at the International Monetary Fund, IMF, assisting over 23 countries, technical advisor to the Nigerian economic team. Today, he is the Deputy Governor in charge of economic policy. Please join me as I welcome Dr. Kingsley Obiora.
The Governor of Lagos State, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, my colleagues, Deputy Governors, Directors from the bank, my other colleagues, MDs of banks here present, participants, presenters in the non-oil export space, everyone, good morning and welcome to this event. I'm really delighted to be here this morning to put a kind of a context to what we're about to witness today. As we all know, the global economy has been going through very difficult times. You look at inflation, for example, it's been reflecting 4 major factors. We've seen some hikes in commodity prices, especially food and fuels, and exacerbated by the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, 2 very serious, significant commodity exporters. We have also seen disruptions in global value chains that has been aggravated by the lockdowns in China, who, as we all know, is now the manufacturing factory of the world. We have seen some rebalancing of demand in favor of services, which are usually more expensive than goods. And finally, we are seeing some tightness in labor markets around the world, because as people have become freer to work from home, it has made labor more available and tightness in the labor markets. All of these, though, have meant that we are seeing inflation at unprecedented and uncomfortable levels around the world. You go to the UK and the US, where for forever they had almost zero inflation. They are now at almost 6% in the UK and the EU, and 9% in the US. You go to Argentina, for example, they are over 70% inflation. In Turkey, is 58%. Right here in Africa, in Ethiopia, they are 36%. Ghana is over 31% at the last count. So when you look at all of this, you begin to feel that we are not doing all that badly in Nigeria at 17%. But usually when the globe sees such difficulties, they respond by coming together in one room to find a solution to a common problem. But that's not what we are seeing this time. A lot of people are looking inwards, and I'm sure the governor would talk about this in his remarks. And central banks have basically all around the world gone on a rate hike spree. In fact, in the last 90 days, we've had 60 rate increases all around the world. And even the Central Bank of Nigeria, MPC, raised rates for the first time in 2.5 years by 150 basis points, which one could consider to be aggressive. We saw yesterday the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of the US raised rates by 0.75%, which, according to history, is the largest they've done since 1994. So all of this means, though, that as you raise rates, it must affect growth. And that is why the IMF has recently revised growth from 6.1% they expected this year to 3.6% for this year and next year. And if you look at where they kept Nigeria at 3.4%, again, it just tells you that we're not doing as badly as we might want to believe. And so these inward-looking policies that the globe has taken, banning important commodity exports, means that here at home in Nigeria, we need to take care of ourselves. And the RT200 FX program is a response to that we can do this on our own, that nobody would come from outside the country to help us survive. And it has 5 pillars. What we are doing here today is a promise being kept by the governor of the central bank that we should have a biennial non-oil export summit where people can sit down, and for every problem or challenge that you throw on the table, there will be someone in the room to provide solutions. And it is my sincere hope that this is what we'll achieve today, and that we're going to harness ideas to make sure that we're able, over the next 3 to 5 years, to actually get to $200 billion in non-oil exports. I welcome you all to this event. Thank you.
He came here without any paper, and he was reeling off data. The round of applause is $1 million. Thank you. And let me quickly correct myself. The Central Bank Governor is the chairman of Bankers Committee, but while Mr. Herbert Wigwe is the chairman of the Committee of Bank MDs. I noticed that when I said he was chairman of Bankers Committee, he looked away, but now that is correct. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, everybody in this room agree that Nigeria, as a matter of urgency, needs to rethink its development strategy by developing her non-oil sector. Our next speaker surely agrees that there's no easy way out. When he graduated in 1984 at UNN, he came top of his class. He has schooled virtually all over the world, Stanford, Harvard, all over the world. If you call him the banker's banker, you'll be very right. Today, he is the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Please join me as I welcome Mr. Godwin Emefiele.
Hold yours. Your Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, my brother, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and let me really and specially thank you, because in practically all the events that we host or we organize at the Central Bank or at the Bankers Committee, you have truly shown a lot of support, and I truly think that we need to give you a round of applause. As a banker yourself, I am delighted, extremely delighted, that you are truly still associating with us. Deputy governors here present, our directors, the chairman of the board of bank CEOs, other CEOs, group CEOs, and CEOs of banks here present. I see my brother Mohammed Kuku, the MD of Nigerian Port Authority, you yourself a banker. And you can see that the bankers are going places, even outside the banking industry, both in governance as well as in the management of government corporations. Other captains of industries here, I know the customs is represented. I know the shipping lines are represented here at this summit, and it gladdens me that we are all here this morning. Distinguished guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. I'm very delighted to be here with you this morning and to give you a steer of what we will try to accomplish during this one-day summit. You'll recall that after the Bankers Committee meeting of February the 10th, 2022, I personally held a press conference and unveiled the race to $200 million RT200 FX program, which is an initiative of the Bankers Committee aimed at raising $200 billion in non-oil export earnings over the next 3 to 5 years. At that unveiling, I specifically stated that the program will be anchored on 5 pillars, namely value-adding export facility, non-oil commodities expansion facility, non-oil FX rebate scheme, dedicated non-oil export terminal, biennial non-oil export summit. This program was born out of the realization that most of our current sources of foreign exchange inflows have become grossly unreliable and perennially prone to exogenous vicissitudes of global economic development, and that with the grossly untapped potentials of Nigeria, there is a strong need for us to work together to diversify our FX revenue earnings base to non-oil sector. For example, we have all been witnesses to the ever-changing fortunes of oil exporting countries. Even those that have been reputed to manage their oil proceeds and resources well also suffer from major shocks once oil prices begin to plummet. In order to avoid these sudden adjustments to our economic life, it is the view of the Bankers Committee to focus on strategies that can help us earn more stable and sustainable inflow of foreign exchange into Nigeria. We also felt the need to follow the best practices of other countries and ensure that we protect ourselves a little bit from factors that are beyond our immediate control. Soon after the February 2022 unveiling of the program, we issued the guidelines to give effect to one of the 5 aforementioned pillars, namely non-oil export FX rebate scheme. As you can guess, this scheme was designed to incentivize exporters in the non-oil export sector to repatriate and sell their export proceeds in the local foreign exchange market and earn a rebate to boost their income. I'm happy to inform you that after the first quarter of implementation of this scheme, we have recorded a significant increase in non-oil export repatriation and have paid eligible exporters over 2.5 billion in rebates during the first quarter. That rebate, which was only for the months of February and March, was over 3.5 billion naira. The signals and initial reactions that I received from our people in trade and from the banks have shown that a lot more people who are engaged in exports, people who have found it difficult exporting and then repatriating their funds, have embraced this program, and we're happy that we are making very, very good progress in this program. In continuation of the implementation of the program, we are gathered here today for the maiden edition of the Biennial Non-Oil Export Summit to harness ideas on how best to increase the value and volume of export in Nigeria and improve the availability of foreign exchange therefrom to the ever-increasing FX needs of our importers. As things now stand, we really have very little choice left but to look inwards and find innovative solutions to our problems. Today, practically all the countries that have comparative advantage in certain areas have decided to shut their doors to export. This started with COVID. And sometimes when I stand or sit in certain sessions and to discuss, I make bold to say that globalization is gone. We are back, unfortunately, to the area of bilateralism and not multilateralism. We have to think about ourselves first. We have to think about what do we do for ourselves. In 2014, I was at a program. Please pardon me if I don't mention the program. That was the program where we found heads of states, ministers of central banks, governors of central banks, stock exchanges, all were gathered in that country. And all of us went there, cap in hand, thinking that they would give us dollars to put and come back to our country. At that session, the head of commerce of that country, he came and said and made a lot of presentations. And before she left the podium, she said, it is time for us to think about what we can do with Africa, but not for Africa. The second person came again, the vice president of that country. He spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke, talked about all of you are gathered here, we want to partner with you, but before he ended his speech, he said, but you know what, it is time for us to think of what we can do with Africa, but not for Africa. And the head of the country came up again, and he spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke. We're going to light up Africa with $100 billion or $200 billion, like as in now we're talking about $200 billion for RT200. And before he ended his speech, he said, it is time for us to think of what we can do with Africa, but not for Africa. What does that mean? And I hit the former MD of Nigerian Stock Exchange, Chuk Oyema, and I said, oh boy, I think it is time for us to go back home and think of how to do it ourselves, because people are not going to come and do it for us. That has been what has propelled us since 2014 to see to what can we do for our country. What can we do in the areas that we have chosen to serve our country? What can we do to make Nigeria great again? That is one of those reasons why we are gathered here today. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, the Nigerian economy has been challenged in many fronts in recent years due to a combination of local and global factors. Disruptions due to COVID pandemic, delays in global logistic value chains, local security challenges have exerted undue pressure on our economy, making macroeconomic management very difficult, particularly FX availability and management. These factors impacted oil production and prices, disrupted trade and export, reduced capital flows, and impacted food production. They also exposed the fragility of the Nigerian economy and the need for a more diversified economy. Yet, in the face of these challenges, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been confronted with rising demand for foreign exchange for both goods, services, and other needs. With this unabating demand, the bank has been working to manage both demand and supply side to meet the foreign exchange obligations in Nigeria. However, let me emphasize that monetary policy alone cannot bear all the burden of expected adjustments needed to manage these challenges and difficulties in our country. These problems call for urgent design and steadfast implementation of other supportive, structural, and complementary policies that are broad-based, coordinated, and focused on complementing the work of the Monetary Authority. Just as the situation I have outlined above forced the CBN and Bankers Committee to search for more innovative programs and policies to gear towards sustainable solutions, it is my earnest hope that at the end of this summit today, presenters, panelists, participants will put on their thinking caps and come up with even more innovative solutions to the programs of non-oil export in Nigeria. I'm delighted, and I repeat, to see that many of our government agencies, Nigerian Port Authority, Customs, all of you that are involved in the export value chain in Nigeria, business people, financiers, and practitioners in the non-oil export space in Nigeria are present in this hall. When, at the time we were conceiving of this idea, we said, we, the bankers, will play our roles. We will try as much as possible to provide cheap, affordable, long-term finance for companies that really, truly deserve to conduct export activities of goods and services. But we feel, and that is the reason why we're here, that we cannot do this alone. That we need a handshake between the bankers, the central bank, between the exporters that are all involved in the value chain, but more importantly, with those of our brothers and sisters that are government agencies that are involved in the process of smoothing the process of export in Nigeria. There has been indeed unbearable difficulties and challenges involved or faced by exporters in exporting goods out of Nigeria. My brother Koko, you are here. You have a lot of work to do. We need your support and we beg of you. You are in charge of the Nigerian ports. Please, work with us. We are ready. The Bankers Committee is ready in any way to provide the needed support that can smoothen the challenges involved in our port operation in Nigeria. We truly and badly need foreign exchange to fund the import needs of our country. We can no longer continue as a country to depend on revenue from crude oil, where we have no control over price and quantity, where there are lots of challenges we are facing today. I keep reading the newspapers. NNPC talks, Minister of Finance talks, the Acting Accountant General talks to say different things. I am not about to begin to say the challenge we face in central bank, about how to manage monetary policy, and about how we can work together. But I think what is important is that we all need to work together, because it is a solemn pledge and responsibility that we have taken up as in this role, that we can and we will do something as Nigerians to help our country. And we will need the support of everybody. All the bottlenecks involved, whether we need to create dry ports or we need to create any type of port that is needed to expand and make export operation easy in Nigeria, we need your help. Nigerian ports, the customs, the shipping lines, please, let's do it together. Nigeria can be great in export. Before we found oil, Nigeria was exporting commodities. We found oil and we all went to bed. It is time for us to get jolted and get out of bed and begin to do the right things for the good of our country, so that Central Bank of Nigeria can find the foreign exchange. In fact, people do not need to come to Central Bank of Nigeria to ask for foreign exchange to import. The banks should be able to find foreign exchange from exporters to fund import needs of Nigerians. That is what we desire, and we will need the support of everybody. I am thinking and hoping that by the time we end this program today, we will find lasting solutions to this problem in Nigeria. While I warmly welcome you all to this event, my hope is that this will be a problem-solving gathering, a summit that will guarantee that for every complaint, problem, issues, challenge or difficulty that is presented or identified, there will be one or several agencies or practitioners that can articulate options for solving that problem. I strongly believe that the ideas harnessed from this maiden summit will be invaluable in helping us reach our ultimate goal of $200 billion in non-oil export over the medium term. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, I'm mindful that this goal itself may appear unattainable to some, but I'm resolute and determined that we can achieve them. Many countries that are much less endowed than Nigeria are doing it. Consider, for example, that agriculture exports alone from the Netherlands was about $120 billion in 2021. Yet, Netherlands has a landmass of about 42,000 square kilometers, which is much, much less and smaller than the landmass of Niger State alone, which sits on over 76,000 square kilometers. Therefore, I call on this gathering to candidly interact and make constructive and innovative suggestions towards exploring the non-oil export sector as a more sustainable means of increasing foreign exchange inflows into our economy and generating employment to spur growth in our country. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is important to remember that no country is promised greatness by anyone, like I said earlier. Instead, we have to do it ourselves. Instead, citizens have to roll up their sleeves and work to achieve greatness themselves and for their country. As renowned Canadian economist Peter Howitt once said, economies that fail to transform themselves with the passage of time will fall off the growth path sooner than later. Therefore, this is time for all of us to work together to reposition Nigeria on a growth trajectory by taking diversification of the Nigerian economy as a serious business. This is the time to start working in synergy for the good of our country. This is the time for us as in the banking community to do more and support exporters who have been flying the flag of Nigeria in the international market space. There is no better time than now. I thank you all for your attention.
While the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria was speaking and related his experience at a workshop internationally, and from the president downwards, they were saying, we don't want to do something for Africa, but with Africa. But I think from his speech, he's taking the two along. He's actually begging those in the non-oil sector space, me and the bankers committee, we want to do something for and with all of you in the sector. Can we put our hands together one more time? Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the RT200 is a clear evidence that the Central Bank of Nigeria and indeed the Bankers Committee has a very healthy and promising appetite for reform and the willingness to engage all of the people in the non-oil sector. That is why we are going to present this very short documentary that takes a look at the perspectives and the experience of operators and participants across the value chain. Across the value chain. Across the value chain.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, is performing creditably in its role as a modulator in the economy of Africa's most populous nation. The global economic meltdown of recent years, coupled with the financial tragedies brought about by COVID-19, saw the CBN facing challenges never before imagined. Crude oil, Nigeria's major export earner, fell in the global market to such lows that at one point it sold below $0 per barrel. The pandemic also forced global investors to withdraw much of their funds from emerging economies like Nigeria. Diaspora remittances also fell sharply, and there were disruptions in global supply chains as countries held back supply of essential materials and prioritized local demand. Any one of these factors could affect an economy negatively, but the combination of all of them at once would almost guarantee a total meltdown. But like a giant in the sun, the CBN rose to these challenges with courage and innovation. The Apex Bank threw itself into many sectors of the Nigerian economy and unleashed an array of targeted intervention programs aimed at individuals, households, and businesses, strengthening the economy by encouraging production and massive job creation. To date, the CBN, working with deposit money banks and participating financial institutions, has granted over 3 trillion naira in intervention loans that have undoubtedly been one of the critical ingredients for Nigeria's economic recovery and employment generation. The Anchor Borrowers Program has disbursed 948 billion naira to 4,478,381 smallholder farmers who cultivated 5.2 million hectares of farmland across the country, thereby creating 12.5 million direct and indirect jobs. CBN's targeted credit facility, meant to help households and businesses that suffered significant losses during COVID-19, has disbursed 368.79 billion naira to 778,000 beneficiaries, comprising 648,052 households and about 130,000 SMEs. 1.452 trillion naira has gone to 337 large real sector projects in agriculture, manufacturing, services, and mining under CBN's Real Sector Support Facility. In healthcare, 122 major healthcare projects have been funded to the tune of 115.36 billion naira. These healthcare interventions went to 31 pharmaceutical and 91 hospital projects, supporting acquisition of 59 magnetic resonance imaging MRI scanners, 42 computer tomography ICT scanners, and 4 oncology screening machines. The AGS-MIS program, which caters for SMEs in agribusiness, released a total of 134.63 billion naira to 37,571 SME projects, of which 67% were directly in agriculture-related projects, 22.5% were in services, while the balance were in fashion, IT, and related subsectors. Under the Nigeria Electricity Stabilization Facility, NESF, a total of 229 billion naira has been disbursed to 9 discos to help cover their financial obligations to upstream market participants. These measures helped the country make the fastest recovery from recession ever recorded and changed the trajectory of inflation to an 8-month downward spiral. They also led to a significant improvement in diaspora inflow from an average of $6 million per week in December 2020 to an average of over $100 million per week by January 2022. The lessons learned from the CBN's policies on remittances are now being applied in improving aspects of FX inflow into the country to overcome the inadequacy of FX supply and constant pressure on the exchange rate. The CBN's major thrust in this aspect is the introduction of the RT200 FX program.
As regards the foreign exchange markets, for example, on the inadequacy of FX supply and constant pressure on the exchange rate, we believe that the lessons we have learned from our policies on remittances can be applied in improving some aspects of our FX inflow into the country. After a careful consideration of the available options and a wide consultation with the banking community, the CBN is effective immediately announcing the Bankers Committee's RT200 FX program, which stands for the Race to $200 billion in FX repatriation into Nigeria. The RT200 FX program is a set of policies, plans, and programs for non-oil exports that will enable us attain a lofty yet attainable goal of $200 billion in FX repatriation exclusively from non-oil exports over the next 3 to 5 years. And we are optimistic that this can be achieved. The RT200 program will have the following 5 key anchors. 1. Value-adding export facility. 2. Non-oil commodities expansion facility. 3. Non-oil FX rebate scheme. 4. Dedicated non-oil export terminal. And 5. Biannual non-oil export summit.
Value-adding export facility. The Value-adding export facility provides concessionary and long-term funding for business people who are interested in expanding existing plants or building brand new ones for the sole purpose of adding significant value to non-oil commodities before exporting same. For example, the global chocolate industry is valued at about $130 billion US. Of this amount, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria account for more than 72% of global cocoa exports. Yet, because Nigeria mainly exports raw cocoa beans, Côte d'Ivoire gets $3.6 billion US annually. Ghana generates $1.9 billion US annually, and Nigeria gets about $804 million US per year from an industry that is worth over $130 billion US. In contrast to West African countries, Belgium accounted for 11% of global chocolate exports in 2019 at a value of $3.16 billion US. Similarly, Germany's chocolate exports were worth $5.14 billion US in the same year. These numbers are the same for other commodities as well. Therefore, given these alarming disparities between exporters of raw commodities and exporters of semi-finished or finished products, the CBN believes that the value-adding export facility is a first step to getting back some of these foreign exchange that Nigeria rightly deserves. Currently, 125 export companies have benefited from the facility, with over 210 billion naira disbursed under the scheme. Non-oil commodities expansion facility. This facility will also be a concessionary facility designed to significantly boost local production of exportable commodities. The bank is currently working with the Sesame Seeds Association, Cocoa Farmers, Ginger Farmers Association, and firms that are into backward integration from primary production to value additions. The facility is designed to ensure that expanded and new factories that are financed by the value-adding facility are not starved of inputs of raw commodities in their production cycle. A massive boost in the production of such commodities will also help moderate the prices of these commodities so that the expected increase in demand for them does not become a pressure point for aggregate prices in the market. Non-oil FX rebate scheme. The non-oil FX rebate scheme is a special local currency rebate scheme for non-oil exporters of semi-finished and finished produce who show verifiable evidence of exports proceeds repatriation sold directly into the I&E window to boost liquidity in the market. Similar to the Naira for Dollar scheme, which has helped boost remittances from only $6 million per week to over $100 million per week, the scheme has commenced, and some of the export firms that qualify have been paid under the scheme. Dedicated non-oil export terminal. In recognition of the perennial problems of port congestion, cited by exporters as a major impediment to improved operations and foreign exchange earnings, the CBN designed a third anchor of the RT200 program, which is the establishment of a dedicated non-oil export terminal.
In recognition of the perennial problems of port congestion cited by the exporters as a major impediment to improved operations and foreign exchange earnings, we have designed a third anchor of the RT200 program, which is the construction and establishment of a dedicated non-oil export terminal. According to the African Center for Supply Chain Practitioners, Nigeria loses about $14.2 billion annually due to congestion at our ports. Paraphrasing from an article by the Financial Times in December 2020, the congestion has become so bad that while it costs $3,500 to ship a 40-feet container from China to Lagos, which is a distance of 22,000 kilometers, it costs $4,000 to move the same container from the port to mainland Lagos, a distance of only 12 kilometers. During our stakeholder engagements with the various segments of exporters, we heard several heartbreaking accounts of how containers spend several months in the ports just waiting to be shipped, resulting in loss of perishable goods or well-established foreign customers.
This dedicated port will be capable of creating over 100,000 direct and indirect jobs and would provide a huge boost to the quest for significant improvement in non-oil export earnings in Nigeria. Today's summit, the first biannual non-oil export summit, forms the fifth key anchor for the RT200 FX program. It is a gathering of stakeholders and practitioners in the sector to address complaints and challenges and articulate solutions for solving problems. It is a forum to harness ideas to help the Central Bank of Nigeria reach the ultimate goal of $200 billion in non-oil exports in 5 years, a target which the CBN Governor believes is attainable.
I'm mindful that this goal itself may appear unattainable to some, but we are resolute and determined that we can achieve it. Many countries that are much less endowed than Nigeria are doing the same. Let me note very importantly that the RT200 program is not intended to be a silver bullet to all our problems in the export segment of the economy. Rather, it is a first step meant to ensure that the CBN is better able to carry out its mandate in an effective and efficient manner, which guarantees preservation of our scarce commonwealth and the stability of our national currency, the Naira. It is only by boosting productive and truly preserve the long-term value of our currency, the Naira, as well as the stability of our exchange rate.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker understands not just the economy, but also the challenges of the non-oil sector. His career trajectory is one that's afforded him that 3 times he has been commissioner in Lagos State for economic planning and budgets, commerce and industry, establishment, training and pensions. He was once the managing director of the Lagos State Property Corporation, a banker, a surveyor, and a geoinformatics expert. Ladies and gentlemen, the man that is already ready, approved by the hosts of heaven, walking gingerly to his second term. Please join me as I welcome Mr. Jide Sanwo-Olu.
Thank you very much. You have to do a gingerly walk up to the rostrum. Thank you very much. Whilst everybody has been having their peaceful daily activity, you know, it's only the governor of Central Bank who doesn't have an election. He's the only one that is not feeling cold or feeling sweat even inside the AC. All the other governors that have been working gingerly, either to get a second term or something, you know, have been feeling the pressure of gingerly working. So let's give it a round of applause for our governor, who is not threatened by a re-election or a third term in office. So, Mr. Governor, it's an honor to be here with you again. I want to also thank you personally for all the support you've given my government. For people that do not appreciate what the efforts have been, it's really just to count how many number of banks we have now. I've counted 33, and I'm sure there's still one or two still coming. I mean, when we left banking, it was under 20 or thereabout now. But in your government and within your regime and your colleagues, you've grown the numbers to 33. If anything, you've created jobs and you've created opportunities in that sector. Just to also acknowledge your colleagues, Deputy Governor, that are working very, very tirelessly to ensure that the work of the regulator is sustained. Obiora and Aisha, Edward and Ade, thank you all very much for giving him the support. To our CEOs that are here in large number, it's great to also have all of you here this morning. You can see that I have to go around to ensure that I give all of you a handshake. I don't want you to reflect the new, is it MPR interest rate now? It's gone up by 150 basis points, and I don't want my interest rate to be jacked up, so I need to be sure that I give you a handshake because of all the support you are giving our government. Thank you very much. Other stakeholders that are here this morning, especially our players in the non-oil exports, you know, stakeholders, cocoa, the players in the export industry, all of the players in the shipping line, shipping agencies, and all of you that are here. It's an honor to have you. And other stakeholders, good morning all. I have sat down here last 1 hour to listen and to listen very, very carefully. I listened to what Dr. Obiora started with. You know, so when the MC said he had come up to give an opening address for 10, 15 minutes, rolled up statistics without reading, I knew that I'm in here for a big one. But thank God the governor came up, he had an address, and he kept to his address. So I'm just going to do the same, not attempt to beat the shine out of Dr. Obiora this morning. Kingsley, thank you very much. So it's really an honor to come back here this morning to welcome all of you, especially the Central Bank of Nigeria and all of our deputy governors, our managing directors of banks, to this non-oil export summit. It's an honor to have this very first one in Lagos. And so it's not out of place to say once again, welcome to your Center of Excellence, welcome to the economy that if it were a nation, it would be the 6th largest economy in Africa. The GDP of Lagos, I'm sure you all know, is bigger than the GDP of Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, almost put together. And that's the GDP that we have in Lagos. And so it's always an honor that when we have the opportunity to showcase our own, it's here in Lagos. So welcome once again. Let me start by commending the Central Bank for organizing this summit to promote non-oil exports in Nigeria. Much has been said about the importance and the urgency of diversifying our economy and, of course, the export economy in Nigeria, a scenario in which oil and gas constantly account for a bulk of our government revenues and our foreign exchange earning is certainly not an ideal one. We have the weight of history to guide us in this. Over the last decade, we've seen firsthand what has happened since we're living only as a mono-export economy, especially when that export product is one that is very volatile, as we have seen in the oil and gas industry. We'll also recall what had been the prices of crude oil came, and we know what it is right now, and we know what the challenges are. We know what is happening in Ukraine, in Russia, and we've seen a lot of disruptions, in that space. We've also seen what COVID-19, a global pandemic that nobody could have planned for, what it did, to our oil and to prices in all the countries of the world. We've seen the resultant effects on the revenue of government. We've seen the biggest takeaway is that we need to speedily diversify. And I think it's appropriate for us to once again thank and acknowledge the management of the central bank. You can see from the 10 minutes video all of their others' intervention, right, to ensure that in the last 5 to 7 years they've brought about new innovation. I think they deserve a round of applause. And so the conversation around growing our non-exports in Nigeria, it's a very germane one. And for us in Lagos, we see it as an opportunity to be able to improve on all of the issues and challenges that we have. This is why I cannot but thank you enough, and also thank my brother Coco, who the governor has also spoke about. You know too well, the MD of MPA, what our efforts have been to be able to change the narrative and improve the issues around the port. Excuse me, about 3 years ago, it was a campaign promise that we're going to reduce and improve the gridlock that we have in Apapa. I'm sure we're all testament to that today, that indeed, living here, the MD of MPA can get back to his office from here in 15 to 20 minutes and get right back to the port. We're indeed happy with our modest interventions and on a daily basis we can. And even where there are gridlocks, at least all of the trailers and all of the tankers are queue, whilst not blocking, the traffic for other road users. We've seen all of our modest intervention with MPA on the ETOL initiative and how it's working. And even if there are hiccups, we all can go back and make sure that we have a model that we can all be proud of. We also know what the challenge that we currently have with capacity issues, what has been the growth trajectory when the port was built several decades ago. But I'm happy to inform us that before the end of the year, Lagos should be handing over the Lekki ports for the use of all Nigerians to also be able to increase the space for our export market. The Lekki ports will be the biggest and the deepest deep sea port in the whole of West Africa, if not in Africa, and that will give an opportunity, a rightful choices to export producers and people in that space. And I've also confirmed that even the Badagry port, we're waiting to get a FEC approval, and so on the eastern part of Lagos, in another couple of years, we should also have another Badagry port. So what you will see is really to be able to completely decongest the pressure that we have with the Apapa port and the Tinkan ports in Lagos. For us as a government is to continue to be able to come up with policies and programs that will ease, the ease of doing business in our state and in our community. And so when we took the initiative to say we also wanted to ban Okada a couple of weeks ago, people never believed that it was going to happen and it was going to be a thing that we can do. I want to thank all of you for the support we've recorded so far, but I want to assure you that the things that we've seen will continue the momentum, and we can take that part, of the nuisance we have in the city, we can take it away finally, and we can have smooth movement, of goods and services, of vehicular movement in Lagos without any hindrance, of Okada. I thought I was going to get a clap for that. Thank you very much. It's not so easy when in a political terrain, especially when you are going for an election, and like I said, you are juggling up and down, you have to make, a decision that is so critical like that, and you stay with it. Because indeed, a lot of people believe that everything that politicians do must have a political note. But sometimes, we stay with our words and we live with it to ensure that, the people benefit from it greatly. I listened to what Dr. Obiora had said. We're having 17% inflation growth in a country, but the challenge that we have as a nation is not just the inflation numbers. We're seeing that we're going to a terrain where political instability, changing from one government to another, we need to be able to check it, and we need to be able to ensure that all of you in this room, are playing your own roles to ensure that you do not have any form of hiccup, even whilst we're going through this transition. We've got security issues in our country, and all of us in this room also have a responsibility to play our own part to ensure that whilst the shock of 17% is just only on inflation, other numbers that we cannot add on to it does not disrupt those figures, and ensure that indeed we can have a CBN that can plan well and be able to bring down, all of those challenges very, very quickly. And so we want to, again, say that the potentials of having an economy that can scale up its export cannot be overemphasized. We've seen, all the numbers are shown on the board, that even the things that we have today, just by improving value addition on some of the products and some of the export that we're having now, we can see double and triple folds in terms of earnings and revenues, coming from some of those areas. And it goes beyond just oil and gas. We can see a lot of improvement in agricultural produce. We can see better improvement in solid mineral, chemical products, and all of it. A country in need of foreign exchange has no business just staying on importation alone. Like you keep saying, let's produce what we want. Let's eat what we produce. Let's ensure that everything that we produce in this country are to reduce our dependence on importation. As I've always noted, I think it's important for us to commend the central bank for this great initiative. We believe that the race to US 200 billion FX scheme, which is called RT200, among other laudable initiatives of this current regime of CBN, is very laudable, is apt, and is something that every government needs to embrace, and all of you in this room. We believe it's the way to go. Like see an improvement in our foreign exchange earnings in the years to come. Not only in exports, the CBN Governor and ourselves are also working at ensuring that we can use tourism as another means of foreign direct FX. The CBN, working with the committees of banks led by the chairman of the Committee of Bank CEOs, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, are working to ensure that before the end of the year, the National Arts Theatre, which is a major tourism destination for our country, will be available, will be open to the very teeming, active, and very useful youth population that we have, that can be used to export all of our entertainment industry. That in itself is in an attempt to have a lot more depth in foreign exchange earnings. Mr. Governor, am I right? Absolutely. And also to look at other export earnings around tourism. Lagos also want to be a tourism hub where people can come in here and bring in their foreign currency and stay here and live and be able to create another economy. We've got 187 kilometer of beach line front that we're working with the central bank, and he had assured us that he will help us also develop that industry, so that indeed the export potentials of this country is not only on products, is also on services. People can come in here in this country and also pay, part of all of their earnings. I'm aware that the CBN have also approved payment of billions of naira to more than 100 exporters, and I'm sure some of you are here. And I want to advise you to take advantage of this scheme and scale up so that we can see an improved growth in our non-oil exports. I have no doubt that this scheme will go from strength to strength, and it will deliver beyond what our expectations are. And I want to urge all our exporters to readily take advantage of this. Finally, I want to urge the central bank to continue to fine-tune and strengthen this process while we also look for seeing some of the challenges that might come out of it. Let me also commend the efforts of all the businesses that are investing heavily in the production of products that qualify for the RT200. And I think one of the examples we have readily on mind is the Dangote Group. I'm sure we all know that it's now producing the largest producer of urea fertilizer in Africa. And I'm told that just last quarter, that the urea exports, coming out from the Dangote urea fertilizer had actually exceeded the export from sesame seeds, alone, just in the first, quarter. And I think there are so many other products, that we can think through that can indeed, begin to improve our export earnings in that area. And I think it's something that we all need to commend, and thank Dangote Industry and CBN, in that line. And I believe that this and others will also take similar lines. Let me just stay away so that the real, engagements of today can stand. And so on this note, let me wish all of you an insightful and a successful deliberations within the course of today. And I believe that this summit will be the beginning, of a bigger journey where exporters and players in that market, all of our people in the ports operations, they can all come together and they can create an ambience, and a process where people that need to do not only import, also an export will have it, on the palms of their hand, and they can indeed plan well and bring about, the foreign currency that will so much require in this country. Once again, thank you all very much for listening, and I wish you the very
Excellency, please remain. Please remain. Let's appreciate him with a standing ovation, please. Thank you. As I invite the Governor of the Central Bank, all the Deputy Governors that are here, all the bank MDs to please join him on stage for the group photograph, please. The MD of Nigerian Ports Authority, MD of Nexim, representative of government agencies that are here, the Director of Trade CBN, the Director of Development Finance CBN, to please join him on stage for the group photograph.
Okay, the Central Bank of Nigeria Non-Oil Export Summit right there, taking place in Lagos, hosted by the Lagos State government. Okay, there's been a lot of talk about non-oil exports and how, in fact, in a recent report by the MBS, the foreign goods export rate, how Nigeria has done very well with non-oil exports. So focusing, I remember, on cocoa beans and sesame seeds, bringing in a lot in terms of exports to Nigeria. So there's something perhaps there. The higher the non-oil exports go, maybe the better we'll be able to manage some of the contradictions within the economy.